What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hardworking Happy Hour. I'm Sean.
And I'm Catherine, and as always, we'll be breaking down all things trades, entrepreneurship, and turning your creativity into a passion career. Hey, Sean.
Hi, Catherine.
How are you?
I'm Sean. Nice to meet you.
I'm Natalie. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, you always go with a standard fake name.
Yeah, it's always Natalie.
Sometimes
I say Natalia, but usually it's Natalie. It's my standard fake name.
I feel like you need to pair that with an accent, and in a previous episode, you did a British accent, so why don't you try that? I'm not Natalie.
Oh, Natalie with a British accent? Natalia is very, like...
Russian
or, like... Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, anyway. What's your fake name? What would you go with for a fake name?
probably Roscoe.
Okay.
I don't know. I just pulled that out of nowhere. No, I don't have a standard fake. I'm too notable of a person. Everybody would know who I am.
Oh, God.
Like, that's that guy that I think Bill Stacks on YouTube. I cannot get by with an alias.
Classic.
Far too notable.
Ugh,
but
famous people these days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked already, and that is not why we're here. We are here to provide value, and we have a guest on this week that is going to bring a lot of value, and I think it's super interesting because could not be more, I don't want to say opposite of me, but his strengths are a mirror of my weaknesses, which so I was excited to have this conversation and learn a lot, and that is James Reed from AffordablePatio.com. And we've met him at some trade shows. He is friends with some people that we are friends with and has become one of our friends, and really has it dialed in on his systems, on all of his processes, and has created what he says is the McDonald's of hardscaping. It's rinse and repeat. It is a system that they constantly monitor and tweak and improve on things, and it works. And I think no matter what type of business you have, even if you are not trying to be the McDonald's of your trade industry, we can all pull a lot of valuable stuff out of this to improve our systems, to improve our processes, to just standardize things. So I'm really excited. A lot of value here, and excited to get into it.
Yeah.
What do you
got any more kibitzing to get into, or do you want to just send it right to the guest?
Why? What do you got? You got any good kibitzing?
At the time of this episode, I will be in Italy, so.
My God. Sounds like you've already checked out mentally.
Sure have.
You're like, I got nothing to talk about. I'm already in Italy. Well, you're not in Italy because this episode has not come out yet. Very exciting. Very exciting. Very happy for you that you are exploring the world.
Thank
Italy.
you. I
hear that they got great food there.
Oh, can't wait.
Check it out. Check it out.
20 pounds heavier by the time I return.
I feel like I'm not sure if I would be like because I like Italian food. I'm not sure if I would be like highly disappointed because I'd be like, what? This doesn't taste like American Italian food. It tastes
this isn't like Olive Garden. What is this?
What is this? Everything tastes so fresh. I don't like this. Because I've heard that a lot of Italian food there is like very seafood heavy. They don't have like fettuccine Alfredo is not like a popular thing over there. It's like light, like a white wine dousing of something on some scallops and linguine.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know. Well, let us know. Let us know.
Let you know. I'll keep you posted.
Let us know when you're back. But
anyway, really excited for this episode. A lot of good value. And also, we pre-recorded this right before this intro, so we already know what he was talking about, and it's great. And
so we can confidently say it's going to be great.
This is a dense episode. You're going to get a lot of value out of this for sure. So
you definitely will. And I got a lot out of it, so I can't wait to implement some of this stuff. And it got me just fired up. It got me excited about systems and just seeing them in a new light. They're not the bane of our existence. They're something to be cherished and to be loved. So anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Well, without further ado, let's do.
Let's get into it.
James Reed, welcome to the Hardworking Happy Hour, my friend. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So we've obviously met quite a few times. I don't know,
Yep.
they all kind of blur together at this point, but I'm really excited for this because it is I think your skill set and the things that you're good at could not be more polar opposite from the just your strengths are my just horrible weaknesses. So if anybody is going to learn something from this episode, it's me. And if I could just implement at least like one thing that we're going to talk about here, I feel like I am going to get such a amazing payback from doing this episode. So I'm super excited. Can't wait to get into it with you.
I love it. I appreciate it. You're making me blush. So thank you.
Well, so obviously, our business model is geared around the creativity. We don't do that many jobs. We don't have, I don't want to say we don't have a system, but we don't have a great system. We don't have things. It's not plug and play. We can't, it's not rinse and repeat. It's not scalable in the traditional sense. And what you have built is affordablepatio.com. You are installing affordable patios and doing that with a system that is reliable, repeatable, where you can install a nice high quality patio, but it's not the thing that we build. It's not this bigger project. It's something for a different clientele that just wants something that's really nice, well built, and that they can afford. And I think that's kind of a noble thing to do, to give something that is high quality at an affordable price to somebody that's really going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So why don't you start off by kind of telling us a little bit about what led you to this model?
Awesome. So one quick topic on what you said. Most artists don't have systems and processes. So you're just like every other artist, right? That's why they create such beautiful things. So a lot of them can't have systems or processes because every emotion is different and designs are different. So you got to give yourself that.
That's I know you know Dan Preston,
yes,
right?
Yep.
And like the best thing that he ever said was, anytime like you mess something up or do any of like you're an hour later or whatever, you say, I'm an artist. So I love that. It's an excuse that is just blankets absolutely everything, and yep. I will lean on that.
And it's 100% true, because a lot of times that I like when I talk to people or explain it, and I'll answer your question, is more of like, hey, I'm an artist, but I'm more of a business owner. So when it comes to my house, my projects, I told you before, we're featured in magazines on our projects. That is my artistic skill, but I'm more obsessed and I love the business and the journey, right? So that's why you got to pick and choose. I don't know if you guys ever read the book E-Myth. You're either the entrepreneur, the manager, or the technician, which is the artist. So a lot of businesses don't know which one they are and they get stuck in that rat race, right? So being an artist is great, but just understand that you are the artist and you might need someone to help on the business end, or vice versa. I'm great at business, but I'm going to need some artist to help bring it to that level. So the reason I got into this is because I was just like you, doing all this amazing, crazy work, beautiful, and we had no money ever. We were begging for, okay, I hope we get up to this part so Mrs. Jones can give us a payment so we can make payroll this week. And the reason was, how can you estimate properly this art? Like, this inlay should take this. I'm close with Shane from Royal Stone. Like, he does all this incredible stuff like you guys. I'm like, I don't know how you could ever price that accurately, because like we talked about, sometimes it takes 30 minutes to get home, but magically it took 10 minutes to get home, or you hit traffic and it took an hour. So I was doing all these jobs, and I actually broke down to one of my clients who now turned into my mentor, one of my best friends, one of my groomsmen at my wedding. And I'm just like, Joe, I'm doing all this work. Like, look at all these jobs I'm featured in. I'm in a magazine. Like, I'm the man. And I'm like, Joe, I can't make payroll this week. And then he's like, have you ever read the E-Myth? And I'm like, no. And then he explained it. I'm like, that's my problem. I am the artist trying to do the business end, where he's like, you're great at business, but you're great at art. Which one do you want to go with? And then like the frustration of like not making payroll, but to the outside, especially you guys, you're big on social. It looked like I had everything figured out. So then, everything started to collapse. I was stressed. It just wasn't who I wanted to be. Then we started to dive in and he was like, hey, where's your most profitable jobs? And I'm like, honestly, like these 20 by 20s, these 20 by 30s, because I don't need to be there. And God forbid I messed up on an estimate. How much could go wrong on a 20 by 20? Like, oh man, I need an extra couple layers of brick. Like maybe. Or, oh, okay, wow, I wasn't expecting that slope to be that much. I have to raise the patio up 6 inches. It's 3 more hours. Like, you could still keep it moving. The problem when I was doing those large jobs, I was underestimating material by a long shot. I was also earlier in my, in the business end of it, that like, I thought that if you did $100,000 plus job, you made it. Like you were going to be rich. Yeah. And that, right. And like, 100%. That's what a lot of guys think. Like a lot of guys on social reach out and they like, yeah, I'm just trying to land these big jobs. And like, I'm the complete opposite of like, I tried that. It didn't work out for me. If I was doing it for the long run, meaning like if I was consistently still doing those larger jobs, I would have figured it out by now. Yeah. But what the main thing was, he was like, okay, so you do those jobs and they're the most profitable. And I'm like, and Joe, the best part is I don't need to be there that much because it's just out 20 feet. Like your 5-year-old daughter could count to 20. And he's like, James, that's where it should be. When I was doing those larger jobs, just like you, Sean, like you have to be there. Like you can't, like some artist needs to be there to make those executive decisions, where with the 20 by 20s, the 30 by 30s, all like the cookie or cutter straightforward ideas, there's no executive decisions that have to be made, right? It's very straightforward. Then we started breaking down all the numbers and he was like, hey, James, like your room for error is better on these smaller jobs. Your profit sometimes is better on bigger jobs, but it's a risk. It could also go the other way where you get killed. So I did a job that took us 40 days and we made like $3,000 net on it for 30 days. So like the risk was huge because it took 5 extra days and longer, a couple of pallets of material. Guys don't understand that your overhead is much higher than most people think if they don't know their numbers and their labor. So say you have a great business that's netting 20%, but your labor and overhead's $2,000-$3,000 a day. If it takes 5 days longer on the job, there's 10, 15 grand. I don't care what it was. That 10 or 15 grand is 10 or 15% of the whole job. Your money was gone. So then I started going with that. Then we created this idea and I told my parents, because I come from like lower middle class, just like my dad was a mechanic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, hey, we could do this 20 by 20. This was back in the day when things were much cheaper. A 20 by 20, a sitting wall and a fire pit, all Cambridge material for like $5,500. And she was like, oh, wow, that's really affordable. And then that's where we came up with the name affordablepatio.com. Then we had to buy that domain. It was like $14,000 for the domain. But like, it was like, it spoke to who my client was. My mom thought you needed to be a millionaire to get an outdoor living space. And guys, we're talking about like 8-9 years, it isn't what the industry is today.
Yep. Yeah. And I think something that you touched on there is super, super important and something that we've obviously experienced and something we talk about a little bit is the variability and the margin of error on a larger project. Not only is the possibility of that margin of error much higher, it's exponential in, if you underestimate something, it's everything is bigger. If you underestimated materials, you need to buy a lot more materials. If you underestimated time, which is really easy to do on a large project because you just forgot about a certain element that you need to do. It's easier to overlook things on a larger project or to just be optimistic about it. And not only do you lose money there, like you said, every day that you're there, you're losing $3,000 of overhead that you're not recouping because the price is the price. But it also, if you do that on a smaller project, you might still at the same kind of level be losing the same amount of margin, but you're able to move on from that job a lot quicker, and also not only just move on from it, but take that lesson from it, input that data into everything moving forward. So like the life cycle of that mistake is so much faster. You
Exactly.
make the mistake, you move on from it, you learn from it. Where a big job, you might realize you made the mistake halfway through and you got another 3 months on it, and you're
Yes.
just like, and then you have to wait another maybe 8 months to take that lesson that you learned and implement it. And hopefully you haven't gone out of business in that time,
Yes.
because it's easy to do that. And then on the next one, you might make a different mistake. And,
Yep.
the faster you can kind of cycle through the jobs and figure out the mistakes and implement them is, super important. And it makes it a lot faster and kind of more productive. So I think that's super important. And
Huge.
you kind of put it in a really interesting way, which I like.
Here's a great analogy to put it. Sometimes when you date a significant other for a couple of weeks or a month, it doesn't hurt as much, right? Versus someone that you invested years into. The other problem with what you just said too is the way, like, maybe not this year, last year, but during COVID or whatnot, like you're booked out for months. So that lesson you learned there, you're going to pay for months because you already estimated it the other way, right?
Yeah.
Where, and I don't know, and another topic you brought up and you hit like in that one sentence, how many things really resonated was like, the other problem is at week 2, when you figured out you messed up, you are not that charisma person that you're like, man, and you're going up to estimates without being so like happy and like things are going great, because you have that on your shoulders. Like, man, I'm doing with this job that's going bad. So like, your personal life, your business, everything is like going to get hurt by that. So what I love is like, we still make mistakes, right? Not every job is figured out amazing, but like, I know like, hey, I'll be done with it in a day or 2, and then I'll be on the next one, and then I'll be on the next one. We track everything. So my success rate is 95% on material and estimating now, because of tracking everything. And like you said, the smaller jobs, if I need an extra layer of brick, it's $50. Like, it's not that much more. You never need on a 500 square foot patio, you never need a pallet more. It just, that wouldn't make sense, right?
Yeah. You've really messed up if you're at that point where you're like, this is a 500 square foot patio and I need another 800 square feet of pavers.
Exactly.
You did something really, really wrong.
Exactly. But on a 5,000 square foot thing, like saying you need 200 square feet more is very easy. Like when you guys do all those great patterns, like you don't really know how much waste, you don't know how much things are going to lay out, right? So there is that era where I just don't like that anymore. I like going after the cookie cutter, the simpler, I told you on the phone multiple times, like I'm like the McDonald's of the patio industry. Like people are hungry, I'm there to feed them. It's not a high end, restaurant, but we're there for what they need and we're there to solve their problem.
Yeah. And I think it's, everyone goes into business for different reasons, but one of them is they want to be fulfilled. They want to feel like they're doing something important and that they're passionate about. And I think a lot of people in trades, there's like kind of a large majority of people that look at it like, I'm so passionate about the installation and the design and all of that. And that's where I get my purpose from. And that's what I look at these things that I'm building. And I think there's not as many people that look at the business side as like, that's the part that's getting you excited. You're still building something. It's just not, you're still building patios as well, but like the thing that you're really building is this machine, and you get to tweak it and tinker with it. And that's the thing that like, gets you all jacked up. It's, people might look at Affordable Patio, who would want to just build those patios? Well, it's a lot of people want those patios and like we'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but also like the thing that's driving you is you're building this back end machine that's driving it all, and that's the thing that you get to play with and use creativity and all of that kind of stuff. So I think some people don't look at it that way. They just look at, like you said, from the E-Myth, they're operators, they're technicians, they're mechanics that, really don't see the business as this like separate entity that you build. And you can express all of that stuff that you want. Your creativity and your passion can go into building this thing that then builds the other thing. So I think that's super cool because you probably, it sounds like you are really a creative person, but now
Oh
you
yeah,
get to funnel that creativity into, hey, how can we, manage this ad campaign that we're doing? How can we come up with something creative to get new clients? How can we take all this data that we've collected and put it into something useful? So
exactly.
I think that's super cool. Talk about what is some of the data that you do collect? Um, how do you manage and organize it and then take action on it?
Yeah, so we actually have data on every part of the business. So we have data on how long each thing takes, like 2 steps versus 4 steps, how many square feet could be done in a day, how many feet of edging that a bag of Portland, does from our ad spent, what's our ROI on it, what's our close rate, what profit is pulled from each one, to everything from the amount of working days, the amount of rain days that we have, to like literally everything that you could think of, okay, cool, Facebook is a lower close rate of 15%, but we're paying around like $125 per estimate that we show up on. And if we're closing 15%, if our average ticket is anywhere from 3 to 4,000, it's of net profit, like it's worth doing that, right? And
Yeah.
figuring out how we could, like, even to what you're saying about being creative, like I drive 3,000 people to my website a week. Like, you know how amazing that is? And like, all right, average bounce rate on people's websites are like a minute, minute and a half. Because like if I go on your website, like there's just a minute and a half on a website, there's just not much info. Our
Yeah.
bounce rate is 18 to 30 minutes. So like that's what gets me excited. If you guys have time, you go on my website, you can be like, now I understand what he's creating it in different areas, not just the patio end. We have 150 videos on our website. We have price builders. We have things that like the flow of how people go. And like I would say in all our locations, 1 out of 8 people say like you have the best website I've ever seen. So to me, that's really meaningful because if it's only 1 out of 8, a lot more people are obviously thinking it. They just didn't say that. Like, oh, Sean, you're an attractive guy. Like, not everyone tells you that. It's the one of the
I
one of
do
10,
actually.
right?
No, it's like 11 out of 10. It's really,
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
Yeah, more
but
people tell you you're better looking than you even met. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like needing 800 square foot of extra pavers on a 500 square foot job.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why. So when you said that it meant a lot to me because it is true. Like I'm not creating amazing things with the patios, but I understand that what I'm selling is a place for their family's best memories. Their daughter's first birthday is no different on a crazy inlay patio with stars in the patio with lights. The the place was that I got to hang out with their friends and their family with a surface underneath them, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of understood, and then I went and approached it in that way.
Yeah. And I think I see a lot of people in the industry that, kind of go on forums and Facebook groups and they complain like, oh, I got this call and, went out and all this stuff. And then they said their budget was $5,000. Like, they should be spending 100,000. And it's like, well, first off, like, this person, it's not their job to know how much stuff costs. Like people don't know. They've probably never done a project like this. So first off, it's your fault for not screening these people and going out and wasting your time. But also, like somebody that has $5,000 to spend on something, that's what they have to spend. And I've always been really big on like, I want to have people that I can recommend. And if I get somebody on the phone and we're not going to be a good fit for them, like we're just not going to be able to do anything in their budget that aligns with what we do, I want to then give them recommendations. And like once I realize, okay, we're not going to be a good fit, but since I've got you on the phone, let me give you just my professional opinion and I'll kind of guide you through what your options are. And I'll say, okay, it sounds like with your budget, your best bet is to just go with concrete, go with regular old concrete, or you could go with stamped concrete, which is a little bit more, or you could go with just a simple paver patio and like give them those options. And it's not their fault that they thought $5,000 was going to get them, a magazine cover backyard. They just don't know.
Yep.
And it's your job to educate them. And a lot of times, like, somebody that gets a $400,000 or $500,000 backyard, is going to be less happy with it than someone that gets a $3,000 patio, because the person that has that, they're like, oh, well, I never use it because I'm, vacationing in Greece, and then I got to fly on my helicopter somewhere. The other person, like, they're like, I sit out here every single night. Every single night I sit out here, and it is my favorite thing, and I love it. And we have barbecues here. So I hate when people like have this type of ego, like, oh, well, what are you? You're poor. You don't deserve a nice patio. Like, there's a market for everything. We can't fill the needs of every single client need, and we know that. We know where we fit in, and it's good to have people to recommend for things that we don't fit in for. So,
I always give the example, Sean. Even what you just said is like, if you pulled up in a Range Rover Sport, people are going to think you're crazy, you're too expensive. But if you pull up in an F-350 Dually Platinum, that costs more than that Range Rover, but it's okay, right? It's okay. Yeah. So I like to explain that, because in the homeowner's perspective, that Range Rover was, you're too expensive, even though the Platinum was $10,000 more than that, right? So like, you have to spend time on customer education, going to what we talked about with systems and like processes. The more you spend time educating them on your website, on your brand, what things may cost, the less time you're going to have to do it when you're actually there, which speeds up the time. Because if you did that on your website with your brand, on your social, those people wouldn't even call you. So like, people think it's crazy. You could build and price on my website like today and get a price. On jobs online, we say this costs this much, this costs this much, because then it just eliminates the people like wondering. No one walks into a Lamborghini dealership not knowing how much that might cost. Right? Like, because they're educated. That is expensive. I need to prepare to spend 150 plus, 200 plus. People don't walk into the Honda dealership thinking that. I'm a car guy, so I use a lot of car analogies. But like, right? Like, you understand what you're going for. But in the contracting industry, it's hush hush. We don't tell prices. We don't know. And I just didn't like that, because, now I'm successful. I have very nice things in life. People charge me differently when they come to my house. And that like gets under my skin, because like, why are you charging me different because I have a nicer house than someone down the road when I still want the same exact project? So that happened to me once. Someone said, oh, he has it. It's okay. Charge it. And like, that just got under my skin, because like, wait, you're charging, you don't know what I have. Like, you don't know. Why are you charging me differently? So one of our core values of our business is transparency. So like, you go on the website and build and price it. I don't care if you have a $10 million house or, apartment that costs 10 grand with a box. Like, where it's the same price.
Yep. Kevin, do you have any, I'm sorry, I feel like James, me and you kind of have the same energy, and
you do, yeah. Just letting you guys go.
I feel like we're doing monkey in the middle, and you're just like, so.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
But I do kind of want to talk more about your screening process. It sounds like you have most of it up front on your website. Like, how much of a touch do you have, like, after the website and before the sale?
So how the process works is we spend a lot of money on Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO work, any type for the brand, right? Mm-hmm. So when we drive everyone to the website, that's all we want to do. People, if I say, Sean, who's your best salesman? He's going to say him, right? Or if Catherine, if you go, whoever goes on the estimates, they say that's our best salesman. Where they're wrong. Their website and their brand is supposed to be their best salesman, because they're never going to meet Sean if they get turned off by the website or the brand. So I understood that. I understood, how much am I going to pay a salesman? I should have no problem spending that same amount of money on my website. So people in our industry are crazy, because I'll say, oh, I'll build your website or your brand. It's going to be like $7,000, $8,000. They're like, oh my God, that's nuts. I'm like, you just bought a lawnmower for 10. Like, you just bought a truck for 100 and whatever. So we spent a lot of time and energy. And what we do is we drive everyone to the website. So if you call, we'll book an estimate. We don't say you have to go to the website, but we send a project playbook. So that's for the people that just saw us working, or, saw a yard sign, something that didn't get drove through the website. We say, all right, perfect. Sean's going to come out and give an estimate to you tomorrow at 2. I'm going to send over a project playbook. And then that goes through the funnel as well. It's just customer education, right? How we install, why this job costs more than this job, like everything. Again, there's 150 videos on the website, literally ripping apart any question that customers ever asked me. What I like to do, I know I'm kind of going on a rant in a different way, but it's going to tie back in. Yeah. We only get asked, Sean only gets asked 20 different questions, just 10 different ways each. So he's getting asked 200 questions. So what I did is I said, I'm just going to answer those original 20 questions before we show up. My average estimate for me is around 8 to 10 minutes. My Florida guy does it in 7 to 11 minutes. Our other guy in another location in New York is around like 13 minutes. So like we're really quick because the customers already know. So they go on the website, they could build it, they could price it, they could get ballparks of what they're thinking of. They could pick single borders, double borders, color matching. We have a whole thing of all the Cambridge pavers. They get to slide through, see what colors they like. So we're really educating them on the whole entire process. Then with the playbook, we actually have about like 30 jobs with the price that a customer paid on it. So it's like, oh, if you have a pool patio like this, expect to pay $40,000. Because you guys know a free flowing like kidney shaped pool, double board, it costs so much more than a rectangle straightforward. So we're educating that. And then we have like a video right below it. Then when we show up to the estimate, we have a brochure that also goes through the whole how we install, what's this, what's that. So like when we leave, there's not one other person that gave them that much info that they're like, all right, these are the people we want to work with. Obviously, we don't get every job because there's guys that don't know what they're doing and they price a lot less or they have less overhead. And it is what it is. Not every, like what Sean said, not every customer's for us. But just streamlining it. Like, I'm so sick of people asking about efflorescence. Guess what? Now we have a whole thing about efflorescence on the playbook, on the website, in the contracts, during the estimate. I talk about efflorescence 5 times because I was so sick of every year. Hey, James. Hey, Christina. Hey, Gio. What is this white stuff? Did you drop concrete? You need to come back. And then when we come and tell them it's efflorescence, they think we're lying. So what we did was say, hey, page 105 talks about efflorescence. Our website talks about efflorescence. Like I could tell you what page things are on because now that question was eliminated. So that goes back to Sean to like the systems and the processes. Like I hate getting those calls. You guys might get calls for, I don't know anything about decks, but let's just make this up. Like, the gaps are bigger, right? I have no idea from, freeze and thaw. Yeah. Like if you educate them, they'll never ask you that question because they understand now. Yeah. Oh, the 45s may open up a tiny bit. Like I'm making up stuff, so I have no idea. But
that's good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Right. But like if you get that question more than once, document it, solve it, and answer it before. My like saying that I really harp to all my locations, to all the guys is like, we have to solve the problem before it's a problem. Because then it never is a problem. And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So polysand issues, you always have, it's a little low here, or the 6x9s are too tight and no polysand gets in the middle. We haven't got a question about polysand in probably 4 years because we educate them on this will not happen here. So that just streamlines it. So I know that was a long answer for your question, but like it goes through the process. So that's why it's so quick and so efficient is because they already know everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like a lot of people don't, like, they appreciate having that information up front rather than having to reach out to you for something like, oh, what's going on with my polysand? They'd rather just look on, like, that thing that you gave them rather than having to be like, hey, I got a couple questions when you have a second.
Yep. And
so
what we
I think
do
that's a great idea.
And what we have in the office is, like, what's good is we'll be like, oh, sorry, Catherine, like, that's this. We send it to your playbook, remember? So it's like, obviously, we're not lying. It was on there before. Yeah. So that's why we also do that, because you guys know as contractors, maybe not in the outdoor industry, but more in the indoor industry, like you always think you're getting screwed because when they take the wall down, how are they supposed to know like this was going to be a problem or whatnot? But like my friend that has a roofing company, like I was like, yo, what you need to do is tell people how much a quarter of plywood would be, a third, break it down. So when you need to rip the roof and you need new plywood, they already knew, hey, it's going to be X amount of money. And they're not thinking you're screwing them over, because that's what I hate. When you knock on the door, going back to the first question we talked about, if I underestimated something, I never knock on the door and tell a customer they owe more. I messed up, not them. It's my mistake, not theirs. So like because I'm not that tough. So like, I don't want to knock on the door and have to tell the person that they owe us more money. So sadly, because I'm just scared and I'm just not that tight to do that awkwardness, that like, we just eat it. Right. So like the more you educate them and the more you understand your art and your science, like you will eventually stop doing those and stop falling over yourself. Right. You talked about the one thing of learning. a lot of us guys haven't went to college in our industries, right? It's tuition, guys. It's tuition. You could have paid $100,000 to go to college. Well, your mistake. I poured concrete in a heat wave. That was a $6,000 tuition charge. I do not do concrete in heat waves now, right? So, that's like kind of going back to what you're saying, learning from the mistakes, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think there's so much to unpack there, so much valuable stuff. So I love it. One thing that they touched on in the beginning was your website, like being an employee, and that's something that we've kind of talked about before. Like we want it to, and we're a little bit different. Like we're not going to answer the phone ever. I'm not going to answer the phone unless it's a number that I know.
Okay.
So it's going to go to a voicemail and say, hi, this is Sean. Leave a message, or if you're inquiring about a project, go to our website and fill out the form. So what that's going to do is it's going to send it to our website, and it's going to walk them through the most like important pre-qualifiers for us, which is mainly that our jobs start at, I don't know what the website says now. What does it say? 50 or 75,000?
Yeah.
So it starts at 50,000, and that before we do anything or give you a price or like show you anything, you have to pay for a design. So those are like the two main things that are instant pre-qualifiers that people can just pre-qualify themselves. So that's what we put on the website, and that's why we want them to see that before they come in. And when I told some people about that initially, like, hey, we put on there that our minimum is, and I think it started at 30,000. Our minimum was 30,000. People were like, well, you're going to lose a lot of jobs like that. I'm like, well, no, because we only do jobs. We're only really like built to do jobs that are more than that. So like, I'm only going to lose the jobs that are less than that.
That you didn't
want. We're not suited to do those anyway. So just saving time. But they're like, but then you could go on the estimate and you could upsell them. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, what's going to be the return in that? Like, I want this to streamline my time, so I'm not out on a job site, doing all this stuff. And worst case scenario, they'll call a couple other people, and then they'll be like, oh, you know what? The job that I thought was going to cost 20 is actually going to cost 75, and I didn't like those people, but now I'm in this price range, so now I'll reach out to them. So I think that transparency is like, why wouldn't you? It's like people want to do research before they call you, especially now. Like, give them the information. Like, what is there to hide? And I don't understand the reluctancy to do that. And it's like, what jobs are right for you. Like, give the person the information so they can weed themselves out if they're not the right person.
Yep.
And I think the way that you've done it, I can't wait to go on your website and like go through all this stuff. And
you're gonna say, I see why I'm on for 18 minutes. Like, it's in the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah.
So I got a crazy idea for you, just off of what you just said. It just came to my mind. What you should do is, I don't know if it's like your cell phone, but you could definitely get an app that when you don't answer, it auto texts them a video of you introducing everything you just said and the reason why they have to go on the website and educating through the process. Because if they don't watch that video, they're not your ideal client anyway, right? Like, oh, okay, I got to go on here. All right, great. It has that personal touch. And it might not be you, Sean. It might be whoever. One thing I try to do is I equally record with everybody so they're not needing me. So if I used you guys, like I want Sean at my house, right? Where with me, like no one needs me. No one even looks for me. So like doing something like that, like, hey guys, thank you for the call. So this is our process. We want you to go on the website, price it, understanding that our jobs start at $50,000. We're doing like this. And we're so excited to meet you. And then it gives that personal touch, right? And like, that's automation. That's not going to cost, like, doesn't do anything. And that really is like, wow, this is the top level, right? This is that company I want to work for.
Yeah. And I think one thing that it shows when you have like all of these things in place, like, I'm sure you probably, people book the appointment, and just from contractors I've dealt with that are a little bit larger, you get the text that your estimator's on the way or something. And, all of these things. And then you show up and you hand them all this information, and they've already been on your website and they see all this stuff. And, everything is like, just so they can tell that everything has a place in the system. And I think that gives people a lot of comfort. Like, okay, this doesn't feel like the type of company that I'm just going to fall through the cracks. And like, they said it'll be a week, and then like it takes 6 months to get here, where I think some people are leery of that or like regular, what do you call it, chuck in a truck, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this guy might be a tiny bit cheaper, but he doesn't even have a website and all this stuff. And he kind of just like stumbled over here and, kind of doesn't have any type of process, didn't give me any literature, didn't give me any information. So like that gives people so much comfort, and people are willing to spend a little bit more, a significant amount more sometimes, for that peace of mind that I feel really confident that I'm going to get what I pay for here. There's not going to be surprises. There's not going to be a bunch of runaround. It's this company has it dialed in, and I might pay a tiny bit more for that compared to somebody that just kind of rolls up in a random truck and maybe isn't licensed or whatever. But there's so much value in that comfort, and that's like, that first impression people must get is just amazing. Like, wow, this is like, how is this possible that I'm getting all this information right now?
It's like their risk tolerance, right? You could take that risk on the chuck in the truck, and guys, it might work out great. Like,
yeah,
but there's a risk, where with us or with you guys, like, there's no risk. Like, you guys don't have to worry about anything. We've got Google reviews saying this was the best experience I've ever had. I wonder if you guys do babysitting, because it was just like, they just said, like, there was no worry. Like, I wish every project like in my house went like that. Obviously, ours is easier, right, than like indoor construction or what you guys are doing. Like, it's the base, the paver. There's not much that really goes with it, but like people are just like, that was the easiest process. Like, that was incredible. And that's one thing that we really strive on. And what you said earlier too is like, we send our estimates out within 12 hours, no matter what. You get it in 12 hours, because I get a lot of work done at like my house, and like guys that take a week or 2 weeks to get me the estimate. No offense if anyone that does it, just me personally, I'm like, how long is it going to take me to get my job if they can't even put those numbers together? Me personally, don't, you guys might take a while, but I strive on like,
I take forever.
Yeah. So, but like someone like Sean, if we spent like an hour together, like I could streamline that process so easily, but you have to have someone like maybe Catherine, like documenting, hey, when we do like the weave or whatever, that cool design that you do, hey, every 15 feet takes another day, right? Like doing it like that. Cause you guys, maybe not you, but like guys are doing the same design kind of over and over, in a different version, where I know, hey, this is how many feet of border we can lay in a day. This is how long, 4 hours, right? Like, so we know. So quick thing is like, we can install in New York, we can install 300 square feet in a day, meaning pulling up in the morning, excavation, base, poly sand, pavers, collect money, topsoil, and leave. In Florida, our Florida location, we can do 500 in a day. The problem is when a customer wants 575, well, we have to charge for another whole half a day of labor and overhead. And the price per square foot, because we don't charge a square footage price, like skyrockets, because I have to come back. I can't get to the next job. So like teaching them and educating, like, hey, if you're budget conscious, go down to 500 square feet, you'll save $2,000, because we could get that done in the same amount of time. Or if the customer has 475 square feet, we're charging almost the same as 500 besides the material costs. My labor's the same. My overhead's the same. I can't call the insurance. My auto insurance is like ridiculous. In one of our locations, it's 60 or 70,000 for our auto insurance. I can't call our auto and say, hey, we left Sean's house an hour early. Is my insurance a little less? Like, I still have to pay the same amount, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So figuring out all that stuff, right? Like to the T. And the best part is, this is going back to what we talked about system processing. Then I don't need Sean to do the estimates anymore. Anybody could do estimates. Your son, maybe in 6 months, could start doing the estimates. I would send him out there.
I imagine it's probably like on an iPad or something, and he would probably.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, your wife has to drop off though for the estimates. He'll jump out, measure, jump back in.
He's got like a little John Deere tractor that he rides pretty well, so he'd be all right. I think that what you touched on there is amazing, being transparent with like, hey, if you want 575, you might as well either go down to 500 so you can save a bunch, or
go up.
You could go up to say 750 and it's still a day and a half or something like that. And like, we try to educate people on that with certain things like size of the deck. Like, okay, up to 20 feet out from the house, like, is going to be significantly easier than going 21 or 22 feet because the joists are only going to come in 20-foot lengths. So if we have to go beyond 20 feet, now we have to seam it. We have to, it just takes a lot more time. It's more footings. It's all of this stuff. And, we can kind of like educate that where somebody might just say, I want a 22-foot deck off the house. It's like, well, why is it 22 feet? Where'd you come up with that number? And we'll try to kind of engineer what use they're trying to get out of it. And then we'll say, okay, well, it sounds like 20 is going to be fine here, and it'll save a bunch because we're going to need less lumber. It can just be one joist, or, maybe it does need to be more than 20. Let's go out to at least 24 or 26 because we're already, incorporating an offset joist and all that kind of stuff. So I think having that transparency, not only does it show that you really know what you're doing and it like solidifies that you're the expert here, it makes people trust you more because it's not just like there's a method to it, and it gives them something, a way for them to understand it, which I think is super cool. And one other thing I just thought of was, especially with you, it's like you can't really have somebody like fight with you on price too much because it's like you have everything streamlined as much as it possibly could be. Yes. So there's really like 3 options here. You hire us. I'm sure you'll trust us because look at all these reviews, look at our process, look at all of this. We have everything streamlined. We know the numbers in and out. Option 2, you get somebody that's cheaper, that's going to do a really crappy job, and that's why it's cheaper. Or you can really roll the dice and hope to get lucky for number 3, the person that doesn't know they're not making money and will do a great job, but they won't make any money. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, there's nobody out there that's going to do what we do that's going to be a whole lot cheaper. It's just not possible. The only chance you have is finding somebody like me 6 years ago that wasn't making any money and was just excited to do it. So you might find that person and have an amazing experience and get an amazing job at a great price, but that guy's not going to make any money. And, or you get the person that's just not going to do a good job. So
yeah. In Florida, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Florida jobs. They don't use bullnose or coping, right? They just use pavers on the edge. Mm-hmm. So we use bullnose. So people will be like, whoever answers the phone in the office, like, your steps at this house is so much more than everybody else. And I'm like, oh, do you want me to just price it with regular pavers where that looks awful with the spacer joints? Or do you want it this way because this project's going to be 20 years? I'll do it that way if that's what you want. It's not the right way. It doesn't make sense. But that's how other people are pricing it. You guys know bullnose, if they're $10 a linear foot, a paver's $3 linear foot. You're talking about on a, raised patio, like you're talking about could be thousands of dollars difference just in that scenario, right?
Yep.
So there is a lot of things that go into that.
Next question for you. You track every single thing. Yep. How, I'm sure you have a lot of proprietary kind of systems to decipher this stuff, to pull information from it. But what are you using? Excel? Are you using spreadsheets? Are you using how do you just organize all of that information? Because it's a huge challenge to collect the information, number one. And then I think a lot of people, even after they collect it, is what do I do with it?
Yeah.
And so what?
So we started with Excel spreadsheets. We're a seasonal business, similar to you. So what we do is we just track and document everything through the season. And then all winter, we look at it, review it, edit it, and get better for the next year. Very similar to sports. I'm not into it. But people that win the championships were made in preseason, right? Like you built a team, you got everything, you learned. So, and then your result was you went to the championship and won it. So that's what we do for 3 straight months. My staff is pretty big. So like we have 4 or 5 office people all winter that are not working. So we just dissect and review every little piece. So we've done that on Excel spreadsheets. Now we created our own software that's only for us. So made it by us, for us, cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're going to build and we're going to be national. So like, you need that type of things. And like our goal is to eventually sell our company, right? So that's something that's proprietary to us that no one else has. And it's going to be getting better and better and better every year. But the biggest thing is we look at, and anyone could do this. You price your job out, you see how much all the material was going to cost, And then at the end of the job, you compare the material to what you bought. Well, 1 year, maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we underestimated $83,000 in one location for material. So I'm looking at my brother-in-law who helps run my companies with me. And I'm like, wow, if I just estimated it accurate, we'll make 80 grand more doing nothing different. So then that stuck with me of like, wow, that's where big businesses start to make a lot of money, is when they're like, wow, one little tweak, no more people, no more overhead, nothing besides why are these costing more, right? So perfect example with pavers by us, they're like $4.20 a square foot for just like your standard Cambridge ledgestone. Well, we charge $5.15 a square foot for it because no one thinks of the tax. No one thinks of the delivery charge. No one thinks of when you need 1 square feet out of the 11 on a layer, you're paying for that 10 square feet more. Brick that's broken. So like we calculated all that. The following year, for the whole year, it was almost $800,000 in material that we purchased. We were under by $5,000. So we made $78,000 more in profit by just reviewing that and getting it better. Guys, compound that over 5 years, because most guys in our industry just don't look at that and get better. Sean might get after this and be like, kindly, we got to step up. What are we doing? So
how many millions of dollars are we leaving on
you
the
got to
table
think,
here?
guys, over 5 years, you're talking about what? 300 grand that you might have lost by not reviewing and getting better. No one goes to the gym and takes all the numbers off the weights. Why would you go to the gym? You don't even know if you're getting better or stronger. You're just going to grab a weight and be like, I'm stronger today. It's like, no, Sean, that's a 15 pound. You were doing 20s yesterday. Like, you need those numbers and those metrics to make sure you're getting better, stronger, and like becoming a better business owner.
Yeah. I think, honestly, this has been amazing. I think it's very clear, very obvious that you have this figured out in your business. I'm wildly impressed. I think it's given me. I'm gonna have to really digest all the information. So I think we'll kind of end the conversation here, so people can take baby steps. If you're like me, you need to start taking baby steps, and you can't implement all these things at once. But pick like one thing. Like you could pick the estimation of the material, and you could. James might have just made you 80 grand next year. So it's starting with those little things. And, like you're saying, that's just one little metric that you track. If you track 10 metrics, in a business like yours, you could be missing out on $800,000, really not doing anything that much different, just estimating it better. And I just think it's super cool. I don't know what action to take yet, but I feel pumped up. I feel pumped up and excited to to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
We're obviously a different business, but there's definitely aspects of this that like we 100% could just level up extremely by implementing some of these things. So
I just want to say one last thing that just came to my mind that's just great for listeners, great for you guys.
You don't have to say I'm handsome again. You really
okay,
don't.
never mind that. All right, this was a great show.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right. Perfect.
We figured out that how many days, like we estimate everything in half days or full days, right? Some guys do man hours. That doesn't make any sense to me. I do half days or full days. We figured out that the guys weren't understanding how long stuff would take. So now if we're going to do a job, we say, hey guys, we estimated this for, 15 days, 3 days for this, 4 days for that. Now we actually did a pay structure bonus. If they finish the job on time, they'll get a $30 a day bonus, like for them to do that. So on a 10-day job, they'll get a $300 bonus per guy. The reason is before the guys were going over schedule, we lost $61,000 in profit that we could have made because they went over schedule. Coming up with that idea, we both won. They made 30 grand more and I made 30 grand more, and we all won because they knew what target they had to go after. So like, guys, that 1 year we were able to squeeze out like 120 grand, whatever the numbers came to be, 130 grand. But what was great is everybody won. So going to the first thing you said, that's how I'm an artist now. Like that was exciting to me. My guys made more, the company made more, and I created this problem and I solved it. Now I have this beautiful thing that's a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
And I don't have it all figured out, but every day I'm just trying to get better and better and better.
Seems like you're getting pretty close.
I just got to get, maybe you'll teach me on how to be as good looking as you. And then it's off to the races.
That, my friend, I got the market cornered on that. I am sorry, but
that's the only reason I jumped on here for that, but I guess not.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Seriously. I think you packed so much freaking value into this. Loved it. And tell people where they can, obviously affordablepatio.com, but where else can they find you and reach out to you or whatever?
Yeah. So my Instagram is road to 100 MS. My goal is to build $100 million company to sell. And I called that name is because when I first started my business, guys said you can never get rich in this industry. So I really want to try to do that for us. Like, guys, there is a chance that you could do this. So you could reach out to me on there. And that's all just videos like we're recording now. So it's just me giving like, just info and things that I'm doing and trying to educate and make it better, because I was fortunate to meet that guy, Joe, who changed my life and give me that like, mentorship, where maybe someone sees something on Instagram and they're like, wow, that just changed my life. Same as like one of the data things that we just went over, right? Like that one thing could just click in your life and really change it and make you a happier and better person. And that's all that's all I care about.
Yeah. Love it. Well, appreciate you coming on. Catherine, I'm sorry that
yeah,
just
Catherine, sorry.
You guys have great banter. I learned a lot as well. So
great. All right. Well, appreciate it. We'll, I'm sure there's so much more that we could do another episode later. So I appreciate it, man. We will talk to you soon. And thank you again.
Perfect. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.